Hello everyone! Before we get today's episode going, I have some fun news to share with you guys. We have, are you ready for this? Brand new merch! If you haven't had an opportunity to check out the merch shop at pmap.creator-spring.com, you would see that there is a wide range of amazing stuff done by some outstanding artists, such as the retro design done by Roya Shahidi, the wonderful human designs done by Elgis Grandpa and My Emerald Tears, and of course, the wonderful Mr. Moneybags design done by the wonderful Tipsy J Hearts. Well, now you can have a whole new meaning to streetwear with this wonderful new spray painted Mr. Moneybags design done by Drags. Inspired by the shirt that he draws for his persona, I saw that shirt and I instantly thought I need to have a Moneybags version of it. So I made sure to commission Drags to make this a reality, and he knocked it out of the park. Available in t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, even pennants, which is a new one for me. That's interesting. You can find many different ways to rep this incredible design today. We even have a fun little snapback version of it that you should be repping on top of your head today. Seriously, Drags knocked it out of the park with this design, and I think that it would be a wonderful addition to your clothing collection today. So please go to pmap.creator-spring.com so you can order your new merch today. Everyone, and welcome to the Postmodern Art Podcast, the podcast dedicated to giving artists who are wowing the world over the platform they deserve. I'm your host, Nathan Ragland, and today's episode, well, I feel like it's one that we could all easily groove through, especially with the amazing guests that I have for you today. Today's guest is Rocco Farend, the grooviest armadillo VTuber on the internet, as well as the developer of the sensational tabletop RPG, Urchin's Fall. Rocco is someone that I consider a near and dear friend for a while, and knowing the stuff that they have had a hand in, as well as the recent release of Urchin's Fall, I knew I needed to have them on the podcast to have just a fun time, because I knew it was going to be a fun time no matter what. If you enjoy Rocco, make sure you support them with the links down in the description below, especially, and I cannot emphasize this enough, downloading Urchin's Fall and playing it today. If you enjoyed the podcast, make sure you like, share, subscribe, or follow whatever audio streaming platform you prefer. Leave 5 stars wherever you can. I see that stuff and I absolutely love it. If you want to go a little bit further with that support, maybe you should consider going to the merch shop at pmap.creator-spring.com. We have some outstanding designs done by some sensational artists that I know you should be repping today. And look, if all you want is just a nice, cool place where you can meet other artists, showcase your work, and just have a good, fun time, maybe you should consider joining our Discord server, the Artist Sanctuary. We've already developed a fun little community there, and we think you'd be a wonderful addition today with that link down in the description below. But now, without further ado, please enjoy the Postmodern Art Podcast.
Can I have the little green version of you on the couch?
I mean, honestly, like, it's up to you. It's your call. Like, having me just in the background, I think would just be hilarious.
Lighting up whenever you speak.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're such a good ventriloquist that he's, like, even up in my house.
My voice really travels.
Yeah. This is actually not done via internet. This interview is being done by a telepathic
exactly.
puppet. Yeah.
I always forget. I at some point I need to do like just a like VTuber interview or whatnot, but like just have my VTuber model instead of my webcam on.
That would be fun. That would be fun. Have lots of expressions and shit. Like,
yeah.
Oh.
I always forget how awesome your model is sometimes, like with the different expressions you have.
I like don't use all the expressions nearly enough.
I mean, fair. I mean, sometimes you're in that mindset, and it's like, especially whenever you're like deep within streaming or whatnot, and you're not really thinking about all the different expressions. You're just going at your own pace or whatnot.
Yeah, I'm just kind of focused on being funny
There you
or
go.
something.
Like if you were really trying for a bit, then yeah, that's when that's when the expressions would be used at best. So
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
okay, Rocco, before we get the show on the road, I must ask you the icebreaker question of the podcast, if I may. Let's say you get to go to a desert island on your own accord. It's just you, along with your thoughts. You get to kick back, relax, breathe. You get to truly enjoy yourself for a little bit. With accommodations. You're not stranded on an island. Just
Okay, so food and drink and shelter is provided.
exactly. To help with whatever vibe you're trying to go with on this island, you can bring one piece of media or one piece of art with you to help with whatever kind of aesthetic and mindset you want on this, personal paradise for a
Yeah.
little bit. If given this opportunity, what would that one piece be?
The main question is, would I have an internet connection?
Like I said, you have accommodations.
Oh, snap. Okay. Well, what is this? Like a five-star resort?
Basically.
Yeah, I guess I'd have to go with Final Fantasy XIV. I mean, it's like the biggest game that I've played. I'm still going through it. It's pretty regularly updated, and it's a thing that I can do with my friends, even if I'm, I don't know, stuck on a deserted island for some reason.
I'm not gonna lie. I asked this question, a good couple, I won't say at least like 50, 60 times or this at this point, something like that. Your answer is probably the one I could have guessed without even asking the question. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I really like that game.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. I know whenever I'm hopping like the VC with you guys, whenever you're playing it, like I can tell just by how invested you guys are, whether you're streaming or not, just like playing it, like yeah, I get
Oh
why
yeah.
that's up there for you.
I mean it's the first video game to ever make me cry. Like
Really?
in my 24 years of life. Oh yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't even anything happening in the game. I just listened to Dragon Song on good headphones and it just started.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
I'm thinking about it now. I think there's only two games that I don't think have gotten me to cry, but have gotten me close to crying, and that is Journey and Rhyme. If you've ever played either of those two games.
I have not played either. Journey's the one in like the desert with like no direct like communication pretty much. It's kind of a figure it out yourself kind of exploratory game, right?
Exactly. Just absolutely beautiful and gorgeous. And if you haven't played, I would recommend it. And then
I need to
Rhyme,
play it.
and then Rhyme, Rhyme was this like little independent game to where like you're a kid also stranded on an island, oddly enough, and like the way that
Holy
they
crap.
and like the way that they ended it, like I didn't know what I was getting myself into because it was like one of the free games on PlayStation when I got it or whatnot. So it's like I was playing it and then like the way that they ended it, I'm like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. No, don't end it like that. Like, come on.
Oh my god, that's how I felt about. Do you remember the Drawn to Life games for the Nintendo DS?
Yes, I do.
Drawn to Life 2 had the most whiplash ending I've ever experienced in media. It was like the most jarring thing I've ever seen. It like you beat the final boss and then it cuts away to like none of this was real. Cut to the real world and it's like two siblings and they were like in a car crash and it's like an older sibling telling their younger sibling a story as like they're about to die and I'm like, what?
Jeez. Okay. Fair. I'll give you one up. Do you mind spoilers? Do you mind spoilers for Rhyme?
When did it come out?
Like early 2010s or something like that, mid 2010s or something along the lines of that.
Sure, it's fine. Spoiler warning for that, and I guess retroactive spoiler warning for Drawn to Life: A New Chapter or whatever the second one was called.
But anyway, so Rhyme, like throughout the game, like you're getting these like flashbacks of like the kid and like how he got stranded at the sea, like he was on a boat with like his dad or whatnot, and like a giant storm happened and then he gets stranded or whatnot, and like as you're going through the game, you get these like cool like mystical elements and like these cool like lore of like wherever this island is or whatnot, and then like the final like 5-10 minutes you're playing as the dad mourning about the fact that your son is gone until like at the very end, like the scarf that the kid was worn or whatnot, like throughout the entire time, like the dad just like lets it go and gets it lost in the wind. Like the kid doesn't even go back to his dad. Like the kid is gone forever.
Oh my god.
like,
Video games can be so dark, I swear.
they really can, and we'll definitely talk a lot more about that with our conversation, but for now, Final Fantasy 14. That is your answer. You're locking that in.
I am, especially because I think it's even topically appropriate because Urchin's Fall has actually been like super influenced by the Final Fantasy series.
Well, there we go. We'll definitely talk about that a lot more. But for now, I cannot think of a better way to start the Postmodern Art Podcast. Welcome, everyone. I am your host, Nathan Ragland. You can also call me Post. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, or follow whatever audio streaming platform you prefer. You can support the podcast on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/PMAP. And follow us on Twitter and Instagram at PostmodArtPod for future updates and guest announcements, including today's guest. They are the They are the developer of the sensational tabletop RPG Urchin's Fall, as well as being the grooviest armadillo VTuber on the internet. Welcome to the podcast, Rocco Farend.
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty friggin' good.
Good.
Nice, chill Sunday afternoon. I had like waffles with blueberries and walnuts.
You were making me hungry. You're making me hungry. To be fair, like for lunch I had sushi. But anyways,
Whoa! I want that.
I know, right? But
Yeah.
nevertheless, thank you for taking the time to be here and talk. I know we've been friends for a good bit. And I've been wanting you on the podcast for a little bit. We've been holding off for a very special occasion, but now that the big event has dropped or whatnot, I definitely want to divulge a lot into that. But before really divulging to the stuff you're making nowadays, I want to go back just a little bit and know more or less the origin story of Rocco. What got you interested in art and video games in the first place?
Oh. I think it's just kind of like a thing that I naturally gravitated towards as like a little kid.
Okay.
Like I had just kind of been drawing ever since I was old enough to hold a pencil.
Okay.
And I guess with video games, I got like a hand-me-down. That came a couple years later. So I'd say drawing probably started at around like the age of 2 or 3 or something like that. Like little child in preschool, always standing by the canvas making something. And that kind of turned into actually making comics in kindergarten.
Okay.
And I actually made a couple of old web videos, not web videos. It was like webcam stop motion stuff or like
Ooh.
scannings of my drawings, and then you'd hear the little child's voice go, "And then Mega Boy stop the village from taking over Pumpkin Island," or something like that. And I think, oh god, how old was I? Like 5, 6, 7 at most. For my birthday party, that was actually like the party favor, if I remember correctly.
Oh,
Was just like a little home movie that I made of like a comic that I voice acted
That's
as
incredible.
like a little child. Yeah, and then I found out that there was a video game character called Mega Man, and I had to retire the Mega Boy thing because everyone's like, "Oh, is this like Mega Man?" No, no, it isn't.
Rocco, how dare you do copyright infringement? How dare you?
I didn't even know what Mega Man was at the time. I hadn't really touched a video game until a couple of years later.
Okay.
But I think my first interaction with gaming would have again been in preschool, probably like pre-K4 or something like that. And we had like a couple of computers, and they had, oh god, I can't remember the exact name of it, but it was a Pajama Sam spinoff
Okay.
with like a bunch of platforming. Just kind of like an endless runner.
Okay.
But like divided up into levels. And I played the ever living hell out of that thing. I think over the course of the school year, I got up to like level 67. And my best friend was like the next highest level. And he was at like 22,
Oh, wow.
or something. Like I was into this game. So I guess it probably would have started like there initially. And then I guess a couple years later, I got a hand-me-down Game Boy from a family friend who upgraded to one of the fancy ones with the turbo buttons.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, and they were like, I don't need this anymore. So I got a little purple Game Boy Advance SP where you fold the screen shut, and I got a copy of Metroid Zero Mission, probably at the age of like 6, and I was just kind of enthralled.
I mean, I can see why. I mean,
Yeah, video games are sick.
yeah, no, absolutely. Especially at that point, like, at that young of an age or whatnot, 6 around that time, like your mind like instantly gravitates to these like amazing, fantastical worlds, especially like Metroid or whatnot. Was that like some of the first games that like really grabbed your attention?
I think before that, it probably would have just had to have been like Flash games. Like there was a bunch
Hmm.
of oh god, there was like Fancy Pants Adventure, Bob the
Yes.
Blob, Hobbit's Revenge or something. I don't think that one has been too well remembered. But that one was like you're just playing as like a copyright free version of Bilbo Baggins, and I remember the ultimate weapon is like a frying pan, and you can just like one shot Smaug with it. Or the dragon, not Smaug, of
I'm sorry.
course.
I just hear frying pan flash games, and I'm like, did this game predict PUBG? How dare that? The ultimate weapon being the frying pan.
Is the ultimate weapon in PUBG a frying pan?
And it's like the most iconic weapon from that game. Like people use that because like you could have that. It's like it's very powerful when it comes to like melee combat or whatnot. And then you can have it on your back. It's basically just like a mini shield, like like a bulletproof shield on your
What?
back. Yeah, yeah.
Probably makes a good sound effect too when you
Oh, it
whack
does.
someone with you. Bong.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah. No, I can see how that would be a pretty popular weapon.
And I mean, like, especially thinking about like some of the flash games you were talking about right there, like especially back then when you were that young or whatnot, that was like the wild west of flash games. Like anyone could make a
Oh
flash game,
yeah.
and that was how a lot of people. I mean, you could probably attest to this, but a lot of people like got their inspiration to be in gaming in the first place, working on these little flash games or whatnot.
I think a lot of those Flash games were like really influential on me also. Specific ones that I imagine we'll probably touch on later. But kind of going back to like that journey of an interest in games and game design. I was just kind of fascinated with video games for like the next several years.
Okay,
And I didn't beat Metroid Zero Mission until like 3 years later. I remember I beat it on the toilet. I was like gaming on the toilet. Like we take things seriously. This console's portable, so I'm taking it on the go.
there you
And
go.
I'm just, sitting there looking at the credits roll and just kind of having a quiet moment in the restroom, just like, holy crap, look at all the people who worked on this game. And it was kind of around that time, probably like second or third grade, whatever grade 9-year-olds are in. I don't know. I don't have kids. um, they gave me the like, what do you want to be when you grow up assignment, and I was very adamantly against that assignment. I was like, I don't want to grow up.
Yeah, fair, fair.
I don't. Yeah. I was like, this sucks. I don't want to be anything. And I guess eventually, I think that like seeing the credits kind of roll was kind of like an epiphany of a game designer.
There you go.
I want to
There we
make
go.
these.
That I mean, hey, that's a good foundation more than anything, especially at that young, having that kind of impression on you. Was that more or less when it for you became just like a general love for like art and such to a passion and wanting to make it your career?
I don't think I had a very clear game plan for another several years. Um,
Understandable. I mean, what 9 year
because
old has a game plan at that point? Let's be honest.
yeah, because if you're 9 years old and you go, I want to make video games, and all of your like guidance counselors and teachers are like, I don't know if that's possible. I don't know if that's a viable career path or something you can do. So I actually faced a lot of like discouragement from it growing up,
Okay.
from like my educators of like, I don't think this is a thing. And I think a big part of that was just that there weren't a lot of resources out there. You
Especially at that
know,
time, yeah.
oh yeah, like this was early YouTube era,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or stuff like that. Like indie games were not really a thing well known. And the video games that most people knew were from Nintendo, which is in Japan. So they're like, this kid's got some lofty goals. And I think probably around the age of 12 or so,
Okay.
I played Cave Story. I was just kind of like bored. I had played a gazillion games, and I was just Googling like best free games ever. And number one was Spelunky, and I didn't like it. So I'm like, okay, let's try number two, and that was Cave Story, and something about it just like touched me in my heart. Just like it hit, knowing that it was one person who worked on a game for 5 years and ultimately decided to release it for free. I think kind of had this drastic impact on me of I want to do that.
Right, right. I remember you telling me about this game at least a good couple times, and the many lifetimes and iterations that it has gone through more than anything else. I mean, I think you correct me if I'm wrong. You said that has been more or less like your favorite game of all time, or something along the lines of that, or
I mean, I replayed it recently, and I don't think I can say that anymore.
okay, understandable.
I
But
it is a game that I love very dearly, but I think it has some deep flaws that are a consequence of it being a solo developer, and
right.
there not being anyone in the room to go, yo, 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 that's stupid, don't do that. But I think the kind of lack of someone else to be there to muddle the vision is why it was able to like resonate with me so strongly. Of I just kind of sensed the love that was baked into it.
I mean, yeah, especially especially as someone that has worked on a lot of their own stuff on their own or whatnot, or at least this podcast, with the exception of the people that are supporting me or whatnot. No, I get it. Like I understand. Kind of just what's that word? Kind of like it's incredible to think like what you yourself are able to do and what this other person all on their own are able to accomplish, especially something that, especially at the time for you, that high quality, that
Oh yeah.
much love and care going into it more than anything else. Like I can see how that more or less, if not, further that inspiration, at least reinforced like this is what you wanted to do.
Yeah, and it was like a path that I was already kind of towing. Like those like game design summer camps.
Yes, yes, I do.
I like went to one in second grade, and I got a little piece of software called Stagecast Creator, and that is
Mm.
actually where I started making my first games. And whoo boy, I need to show you this engine because it makes Scratch look like a super computational like thought process. I could link it to you later, but it's just you have to see it to believe it. Everything is locked to grid movement. Every single scene has to be the exact same dimensions.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was like drag and drop programming at its draggiest and droppiest.
I imagine more or less like, especially at that point, it's like the, correct me if I'm wrong, it's like the bare minimum is to get that foot in the door and like kind of get a general understanding of what you're getting yourself into, rather than the open worldness and like
Yeah.
the kind of like confusion that comes to it. Like, so what exactly am I supposed to do? Do I bring this? How do I stretch this? Do I have to do a nod or something like that? Like,
Yeah. I remember that was actually where I had the first like bug that I ever had to fix. Was
oh,
it took me 9 months to a year to figure out, and it was just the evil elevator was in order to enter the final boss. There's this elevator that you would kind of just walk on,
mm-hmm.
and it would hopefully carry you up to the final boss, and you would fight them, and it would be all fine and dandy. But the issue was, for whatever reason, you would be like pushed out of the elevator or fall through it.
Mm.
And kind of the main reason that was the issue with that was every single rule or script or function in Stagecast Creator has an order of priority,
Okay,
and gravity was being labeled as
the
like a higher
priority.
priority than the elevator. So in order to use this elevator before I could kind of figure out the bug, you just had to mash the right arrow key to re-enter it in midair as it continues to rise up.
I mean, you say that, but especially if gravity is like the priority, I feel like the easier way would have been to have the elevator go down instead of up. That's just me thinking, but
Oh yeah, I mean, I was doing this when I was like probably like 10 years old,
okay,
9, 10, 11 age range. And I was doing stuff that was super out of scope. Like I was making like a platformer with like a level select and a gazillion playable characters that
okay.
each had like unique elemental skills. So you had to like breathe fire to melt the ice, or get rid of the vines or like something like that. I don't know.
I
I
mean,
don't know.
either
It's probably entirely lost to time.
either way, just having that, I guess, like the creativity, allowing that, especially at that young age, to really just let it run wild and have that, try to make that a thing, especially with what was probably at the time like the very limited, abilities with the programs you're using and whatnot. Like that's just cool. Like that's awesome to
Yeah.
hear. Like more or less, like I said, the foundation of the game development you would be continuing to really go headfirst into.
Mhm.
I mean, like, especially, thinking, for a long, obviously, like, as we've been talking about, very young age, really got into that whole entire game development. That's something you definitely kept with you to the point to where you're actually in game development today. Like, that is, a position you've held before. That's something, like, it's cool to know that you've been able to really invest yourself in that field more than anything else. Like, how would you personally describe the game development, more or less, like, journey for you when you think back on it, just even like from the early aspect to where you are now?
Um, I definitely think that kids today probably have it easier.
Probably.
So by the age of 12, I was like pretty much all in of like it's make video games or bust. This is going to be the lifelong passion. This is what I'm doing with my life. Period. This is not up for discussion. Um so by that point I was kind of just like looking for resources cuz my school could only provide me with resources for programming,
Right.
which is not my jam. I can program, but I'm a designer, you know?
Okay.
And I pretty much just had to rely on the best resources that I could find on YouTube, which would have been like the early videos from Extra Credits
Mm.
and the few insights that I got from Sequelitis by Ego Raptor. That came out when I was like 12 or 13, and I had to kind of take that as gospel of talking because the Mega Man video talked about like, where the player's eye is drawn and the design of the level and how it introduces challenges naturally and combines them. And I thought that was so fascinating. So it was kind of just doing stuff like that until eventually I kind of found a college that was actually like providing the curriculum that I was looking for and the exact discipline of game development that I was kind of focused on. And then I kind of had a much better, much more professional roadmap of uh, resources, textbooks, learning about Game Developers Conference or GDC, and being able to watch those talks. And these days, oh my God, if a kid asked me these days, they're like, "Hey, what are some online resources that I could use to get me into game design?" I could recommend them like 10 YouTube channels and 2 books
You
or
know,
something like that.
especially in today's internet age, where like everyone just basically puts the resources out there more than anything else. Like, yeah, I can fully believe that. I can absolutely believe
Yeah.
that.
Part of me honestly wants to like get into making educational videos about game design and game development
Okay.
and like the philosophy of that. I feel like that is something that would probably take a lot more scripting and editing than I like to do with my content, just because I'm such a I'm such a free spirit. I hate doing scripted content. Um, but like I want to put resources out there and like I want to help to build a path so that the next generation of kids who love video games can help to just keep spreading joy.
Absolutely. I mean, that'd be, like I said, going back to the point of the fact that at the age of the internet, the resources to have out there, any more that people can have to really like know for sure if this is the path they want to go on, I'm sure people are going to be more than willing to consume it more than anything else. So
Yeah.
and I especially appreciate the fact that you want to be a part of that in one way or another, especially with, like you were saying, game design. Now, I am an outsider when it comes to how games work and how games are developed. So
Absolutely.
I'll start by asking this: how is game design different from some of the other aspects when it comes to video games?
Ooh, that's a question most designers will actually really struggle with because people have
Okay.
a very, very hard time drawing the line. Game design is kind of an all-encompassing blanket term that
Mm,
involves structuring the layout of the game's interface, or the level, or the narrative, or the balancing of the various variables, or the gameplay or the camera or enemy AI. All of that can fall under design of designing the game.
Mm-hmm.
But and people are like, okay, then how do we quantify that? So I kind of think of it like this: is my job is to make things easier for the artists and programmers, that they don't
Okay.
have to ask me questions to know what needs to be made or how something's going to work. So for like, because I come from an indie background, so I do all sorts of stuff. I do a little bit of programming, I do a little bit of art and animation, I do lots of design, I do interface, I do narrative, I do systems, which is writing the actual rules of a game
Right.
and kind of thinking about that stuff. Um, I forget where I was going with this, but kind of at the end of the day, is the artists and the programmers make the stuff, and then the producers and management and designers make sure that they just have an easy time. And in the case of just design, is I guess just a general filler term, it just kind of covers everything.
It just kind of covers it. Hearing you describe it reminds me of a previous interview I've had with Joe Horn, who was the director of Classic 3000,
Oh,
Boondocks, like, several shows like that or whatnot. Like, his role as director in animation is probably similar to yours as game designer. It's more or less the firefighter, more or less. Like, you kind of make sure everything's kind of prepped and set up to where if a disaster is to happen, you can sort of more or less come in and be like, this is how you're supposed to set it up. This is how we're trying to get it working properly, so that whenever the game does get shipped out, hopefully it won't have more bugs than, say 9 months previously.
absolutely. I think that for that analogy, I think that production would probably be the
Okay.
firefighter of
Okay.
actually managing us and saying what tasks we need to do week by week or month by month, and what the deadlines are, what the priorities are. And, sometimes designers will be involved in that, but in a larger team, that's
Okay.
up to the production side of things. The analogy that I often kind of like to use is, think of it like a construction site.
Okay.
The artists and the programmers are the builders, and the designers are the architects, or
Okay.
the people drawing the blueprints. And of course, there's a lot of intermingling between that, because this is a very collaborative, multidisciplinary kind of industry. So it's not going to be as cut and dry as I make the blueprints and you do what I say. No, it doesn't
No,
work like
no.
that. Absolutely not.
I imagine it's more like, okay, so here's an idea of how, like, here's the blueprints of what I think should work, and then probably the artists and programmers are like, yeah, there's no way we could put that door in right there. There's only so much we can do on that aspect, and then yeah, it's more like a back and forth like that. Correct me if I'm wrong.
uh, it's funny that you should mention doors, because actually there's a bit of a thought exercise that I
Mm.
learned very early in college that, they tell young designers is, okay, let's do it right now. Post, you're a fledgling young designer.
Okay.
Your game has doors. There are now 40 something questions I'm going to ask you of, can the doors open? If so, which doors can be opened? Which doors can't be opened? How do
Okay.
players open them? Do they open automatically? What do the doors look like? And how can players tell which doors can and cannot be opened? That is a design problem.
Understandable. That makes it
Yeah.
a lot more. That our previous conversation perfectly wrapped up in a little bows, a little get. This is what I do.
That's what I do. I
Um,
answer questions about doors.
Hi, this is Rocco. He's the doorman.
Yeah. Or I get frustrated and go, you know what? It's a post apocalyptic world and there's no more doors.
Fuck the doors. They took them down. They burned it for firewood. There you go.
Yeah, something like that.
There you go.
But you can pretty much extend that door question to every single aspect of the game, of what is this hazard,
Hmm.
of spikes. Are there spikes that look different? How much damage does it do? If a player goes through like a one-way platform from beneath, will the spikes impale them that way? Or just all sorts of tiny little minutia.
Fair enough, fair enough. And even thinking, Thinking that's the job that you have to do, and thinking of some of the games you have been involved in, whether it be indie or AAA. I won't name any to make sure not to dox you, but there's certainly like a lot. Like I imagine of varied experiences that you probably had, whether it be independent or AAA games that you've been able to help with, video game development or whatnot. Like, would you say that the experiences you've had since you've been in game development has been more or less surreal for you, being involved with, whether it be a little independent game that maybe a handful of people play or some AAA game that maybe everyone knows of?
There, there's a few that have felt surreal in the past that feel pretty real now that I've had a couple years to let it sink in.
Okay.
I had, like a AAA internship that lasted a couple of weeks working on a game that people have definitely heard of.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, whoa, this is really weird. And I was having a really bad imposter syndrome about it. I feel like that's kind of the thing that is more notable than any feeling of surrealism.
Okay.
Is just, am I qualified? Am I doing this right? Is everything on fire? Am I a professional? Am I unprofessional? Oh no.
I mean, I would like to hope everything's not on fire, though. I would be careful with your chair right there. I see the flames right there. So
Yeah, they help me type fast.
You know what? Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
But I can understand where that imposter syndrome. Wow, words. What did I just say right there? No, I can understand where that imposter syndrome can come from, especially like you were saying with like a AAA massive game that everyone has definitely heard of more than anything else. But like, I also imagine on the opposite end, like working on a smaller team and really like collaborating together to really push out like a incredible, unique product more than anything else. Like, if nothing else, that has to just be cool, like especially at the end of the day, looking back and being like, I helped with that. How in the world?
Yeah, it's like a holy crap, we made something and people are playing it. That's always the craziest part, is the player feedback.
Yeah.
Always is, oh my god, people are playing this. Or like 70% of the things that end up getting designed usually get left on the cutting room floor.
Okay.
So whenever I release a game, like by the time we're done with like a long dev cycle, I'm like, oh no, people are gonna hate this. And they go, yeah, it's all right. And I'm like, oh my god, this is insane.
I mean, that it's incredible to hear. Like, I'm always amazed when it comes to like the video game development aspect or whatnot. I mean, I've had a couple people that have worked with video game development in one aspect or another. Good friend we both know, Tag the Otter, hearing his experience or whatnot was always incredible.
You've also had Duper on, right?
I have had Duper on as well. That was also a good episode as well, which I don't know. By the way, thank you for the little tidbit about the Animal Crossing frog chair meme account. I don't know if you saw the moment, but he was straight up just like, how do you know that how did you hear about that? Goodness. Well, speaking of the people that I've had on this podcast or whatnot, a connection that those two that you just mentioned or whatnot is another connection that you have, because obviously, sorry to break the immersion, everyone, but I am talking to a virtual armadillo in a chair in a room right now. So
in a room with a glowing chicken nugget with a force field around it and a pixelated cactus.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry to break the realism, y'all.
Immersion break right here, people. But you've gotten invested when it comes to streaming and VTubing. I have to ask, what got you interested in the streaming aspect in the first place?
Oh God, I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know. I think I just kind of did it on a whim.
Okay. Like, was there any like maybe like a content creator or whatnot that was doing like streaming beforehand that you kind of saw and you were just kind of like, oh, that's cool. Maybe I could do something like that.
I can tell you, like, I've always been a bit of a performer, right?
Okay.
Like I was doing like tricks on the swing set in our backyard, and I would invite the whole neighborhood over to watch me perform tricks.
Would you do like the simple one of like just swinging and doing like a backflip whenever you're at like the right pinnacle or whatnot, or like just launching yourself?
If I was doing a backflip, it was on the little like trapeze swing on it.
Ah, fair enough.
I'm not flipping on the swings. I don't know. It was like really lame. It was like, oh wow, a somersault and a cartwheel or something like that. And then I got into theater, probably in like 8th grade or so.
Okay.
Um, so I don't know, performing's never been that alien for me. So like live streaming and content creation, I feel like everyone's thought about it, right?
Yeah.
Like everyone's like, I should make a YouTube video or something like that.
I mean, obviously,
Um,
I hate to say this, but kind of a product of that right here that we're talking about right now.
yeah. So I'd say probably like my senior year of college, which was like the 2020 to 2021 school year, which was a terrible time to be a student.
You don't
um,
say.
oh yeah. During that was like the initial VTuber explosion.
Okay.
And that was kind of my first proper exposure to VTubers and VTubing.
Okay.
And me and my roommates would occasionally watch like some VTuber clips together. And our mutual friend Jet was actually one of my roommates at the time.
There you go.
So we would watch mostly Pecora, because that was our other roommate's favorite from Hollow Live,
Okay.
and Korone. Um, I I loved the Ekum Bokum video that blew up. And
It's a
that
good one.
kind of just planted the initial seed. And I guess kind of around that time, you know, another one of our close friends had like a VTuber hyperfixation. So I was like, what if I was a VTuber? And we had like a little brainstorming session. And I was like, I want to be a robot, you know? And I was being very clear. I was like, I want to do something different. I want to do something no one's done before. And I'm like, I want to be a robot. And my friend goes, everyone's a robot. Everyone and their grandmothers has been a robot. You can't do that. So my next thought was like, damn, okay, I'm a game developer. Can I make like a game dev joke? So I was thinking like, you know the NES cheating device like Game Genie?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I was thinking of doing like a pun where I'd be like a wish granting spirit that's trapped inside of a cheating device or like an old console. So I would
Okay.
actually be like a game genie. But I was like, I'm pretty fucking white. I don't think I should do that.
Valid. Go
So,
on.
so I didn't. I didn't even draw up character design concepts. I'm just like, someone should do that. Not me.
Not you.
Not me. So I, you know, was kind of just like out of ideas, and I'm like, dang. So I head over to my room, and I see my little stuffed armadillo that I've had since I was a little baby,
Oh.
and I'm like, wait a second, are there any armadillo VTubers? And I'm like scrolling through, and I think there were none. Someone did like a character design concept as a challenge for themselves, and I went, yeah, I could do that. I could do that and make it myself, you know, do it different. Because I will say, I look nothing like that. I was like, I'm going to take this in a totally different direction. If that's the only armadillo out there, we got to fix this.
There you go.
And I suppose kind of the rest is history. So
Yeah.
that probably started, the character design process of Rocco probably happened a few months before I started streaming, just for the lulz. That was always kind of the thing, was for the lulz. And then that summer after my senior year, I had 3 credits that I just kind of had to wrap up before I could graduate. So I have this semester where I have 1 class. That's it. So I'm like, okay, I have way too much free time, and it's not like I can fill out a gazillion job applications since I haven't graduated yet. So I just kind of started live streaming to kill time. I thought it would be funny. I just drew up a little armadillo PNG. I clicked the go live button, and I ended up having fun with it. So here we are today,
Yeah.
a year and a half later.
That's gotta be insane to think about more than anything else. Like, just like, it just started off as just you being just a goofy, silly little, armadillo PNG, and here you are a year and a half later, and boy, the community alone that you've just developed.
Absolutely. I friggin' love. I should specify, like, the little corner of the VTuber community that we've found. Because I think VTubing as a whole has grown way too large to say that it's one cohesive community. But the people that we know and surround ourselves with are some of the most incredible people I've ever met.
Absolutely.
And I'm so fortunate to have them as friends. And if I were to stop VTubing today, that would be the best thing to come out of this, is those friendships by a vast margin. It wouldn't even be close.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, even just thinking like not just the community, but just like the different things you've been able to achieve since you've been able to be a part in VTubing or whatnot. Like the amount of followers you've been able to grow or whatnot, the incredible moments and the incredible streams you've been able to do or whatnot. You know, the collaborations you've been a part of. You know, the fact that you're part of a very strong community and VTuber group with the Wrecking Crew or whatnot. Like thinking back to just again starting off as just live streaming just to kill time to here you are right now, does it amaze you more or less the VTuber journey you've been on?
Mm, hmm. It's hard to think of anything as too crazy, considering I've like kind of painstakingly sat there and like built, this overlay and this room
Yeah.
and the redeems and all of my emotes and panels and my old PNGs. The model I'm using now is not made by me, but like for a period of time everything was done by me.
Right.
So I don't think I was like too overwhelmed by it. Like overall, because I had worked on an indie game previously that was released for free and got over like 100,000 downloads.
Oh wow.
So I was like already a little used to things like kind of popping off. So this is like, I guess, a little mini version of that.
That's good.
But I built it this time.
Yeah, like especially at
Um,
the ground, like you were saying, it was just all the assets that you've basically had, with the exception of the model. But even then, like your old PNGs or
yeah.
whatnot, thinking how you've been able to construct them by hand and do a good job with them, nevertheless. Like
Oh yeah.
I love the aesthetic and the overlays and everything you've built up with your channel.
Thank you. I think I will say that definitely the most shocking thing to me was how fast I started growing when I like first started. That I kind of more or less hit affiliate in a month, and I was like, okay, how the heck did that happen? At that point, I had pretty much only streamed things where my computer was breaking and an
Mm.
old JRPG from 2004. Maybe Hades once and maybe Art twice or something like that. Of, oh crap, we're about to hit affiliate. I should make emotes.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? That's probably that's probably the best time to do an art stream more than anything else.
Oh yeah.
Goodness.
That's the thing about art streams is half the time I'm doing them, I just need chat to be there to like keep me focused and accountable and productive, so I don't get like sidetracked on YouTube literally all day. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's that's a good thing about chat. They can certainly keep you grab your attention more than anything else whenever you need them the most.
Oh boy, can they?
Thinking back to all the streams or the collabs or the moments or whatnot, do you have a personal favorite stream or moment, or at least one that if you were to present to someone wondering what is a Rocco Farend stream like, is there like a moment or a stream that you would present to them and be like, this is what you should expect?
I think up on YouTube I have a little playlist of a couple of my favorite VODs. And usually it's when things devolve into absolute chaos.
Yes.
When I'm screaming and everybody's screaming and laughing and chat is messing with me and my mods are just making everything so much worse by egging on chat, which I encourage my moderators to do. I'm like, listen, I want you guys to make me suffer just a little. Give me some problems to take care of, Um, mess with me. Give me a hard time. But I think probably one of my favorite streams ever has to be the 9-month anniversary when I first had this room set up. So something about this room is whoops, that's the wrong scene. That each of these props can move independently. So the
Right.
shoes can go there, and the cactus could go on my desk or something like that. And I had Tag, Jet, and Uji, who was still active in the community at the time as Uji. Uh, in this little living room, and it was like a little housewarming party, and we did a bunch of prop comedy, and I had such a blast. I had such an absolute blast. I mean, when you laugh until it hurts, that's how you know it's a good time.
Yes.
And it was absolutely one of those streams. Pretty much anything really dumb I've done with my friends. Some other highlights are the April Fool's stream that Jet and I did of the bit that we did was, it was like a tier list of fetishes, but we pretended not to know what any of them are.
Right. I remember that.
Yeah, so one was like impregnation, but the N was cut off because it was too long, so it just said impregnatio. Or like impregnatio, I don't know what that is. I don't speak Italian. F tier. Or something like that. And that one's really funny to me also. There was the creation of Mr. Typeface, which is this little, the red typewriter character up in the corner. I was just like, yeah, I just want to draw like a little typewriter OC I have. And one of my mods, before I had even finished the line art, was just sending me an increasing amount of typewriter porn that they were drawing of them.
Oh no!
So the VOD is just me getting sent like increasing amounts of typewriter porn while I'm just trying to like draw, and you just see like my sanity fraying over the course of the stream. And I think that makes for a pretty good viewing experience.
Yeah, that was a pretty good one. I'm thinking of a couple of moments in like streams as well. I know anytime you did like a jump stream or a Jump King, like, you know, like challenge, like especially like a challenge stream or whatnot, like the donathons or whatnot, like just the chaos that would divulge into one of those calls more than anything else was always entertaining to see. One of the moments I will always fondly remember, I don't remember, I think you were just doing like an art stream or something like that, and then all of a sudden like you had like a bunch of people hop into the call, but like we were all different versions of your PNGs or whatnot.
Yeah, the Rocco Family Reunion.
the my Rocco and me or whatnot that we used to.
Yeah, I don't even remember what started that absolute.
I don't know either.
I think someone set their PNG to be one of my like older models as like a joke, and I guess the whole friend group just kind of coordinated together and started coming on as Rocco throughout the ages, and it was the Rocco Family Reunion, and Noelle was like she was voicing Boldero, the big himbo.
Oh god, her
top dude.
Oh yeah,
high fives all around. And Mir comes in with a Slugma PNG of the Pokemon as the dog, and he's like, "Woof. Don't leave me, Fido."
What was it? Was it Chunk or Venji or someone had came in like as like your dad or something like that? It's like, crap, I forgot the milk, and then just disconnected immediately.
It's a Rocco Family Reunion up top. Yo, up top, come on, up top.
I'm having leprosy, right, guys?
Who doesn't love
me when I have leprosy?
Dad? Is that Dad? Bro, it's Dad.
Is that Rocco's dad? Is that our dad?
Fuck, I forgot the milk.
Fuck, that's what he left to go get. That might have been Mir. I don't remember exactly. That one was really good. Another one that I love was the parody that we did of r/place when that came back.
Oh, right.
I made it like a publicly available Microsoft Excel sheet, and I made all the cells little squares, and everybody did a bunch of art within that kind of live. So there were like 20-something contributors, give or take. I don't know exactly. But it ended up being really cool, and it was just like a nice little canvas showing something from people throughout the community that we built together, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I'm still like whoa about it. I don't know if I'd be able to even like replicate that stun again.
I know, right? That'd be something insane. And then, of course, I have to give credit where credit is due to you of somehow bringing back to relevancy the wonderful icon known as Buck Bumble.
Oh no, I forgot about that. Buck Bumble never died. How we got that trending on Twitter?
that. It goes back to what I was saying earlier when it comes to your community. Your community is something special. Your community is incredible, and I love being a part of it more than anything else.
They really are some amazing friggin' people.
I mean, just
They
thinking.
just take a joke and go with it.
No, like just think of the people that I like. Think of how, like, for me personally, like, I met you through Sam or whatnot, and you basically opened the door to a lot of the people I consider like near and dear friends today. Like, just being a part of your server and just being in your community or whatnot. Like, it's always incredible just thinking like not only how dedicated they are to, like, if there's like a bit going on, like they will hop on board and like carry it to like the fullest extent.
Oh yeah, our friends are funny people.
They really are. They really are.
Friggin' are.
Goodness. And I imagine, especially thinking back to like your community and, especially thinking like back to your VTuber stuff or whatnot, like you said yourself, like you built a lot of this stuff yourself, and like being able to have this like cool foundation that you've basically built with your bare hands, that's gotta be incredible. I imagine that same sentiment has carried over into your most recent, quite possibly your biggest project so far, and that has to be Urchin's Fall.
Oh yeah.
So I have to know, for people that don't know, well, let me start by asking this question. What was exactly the inspiration for this incredible, like, lore-invested tabletop RPG that you've created?
Oh, okay. So for context, yeah, Urchin's Fall is a tabletop RPG that I made as a solo project, starting in November, and I kind of released the first version in January, just over 2 months later. I think it ended up being 10 weeks and 1 day in total of dev time before releasing it. But the groundwork for Urchin's Fall, or rather what would become Urchin's Fall, started way, 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 way sooner, in that I'm a kid with ADHD.
Okay.
That's a lie. I'm a grown-ass man with ADHD. But I was a kid with ADHD when I was a kid.
Okay.
So I would just be constantly drawing in the little margins of my homework and my worksheets, and coming up with these elaborate little stories and worlds in my head. And one that I kind of started in around probably like 11th grade or so would end up becoming Urchin's Fall.
Okay.
And it started off radically different from what we know now.
I can only imagine.
But I can definitely say that the biggest influences on it, even back then, were like anime and Final Fantasy.
Understandable.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And even to this day, I still love anime and Final Fantasy.
Yep.
They're big ass influences on me.
I mean, especially
and
thinking,
I wear that on my sleeve.
I was gonna say, like, especially thinking, just on like the base level of like just going back to like the lore, like the unique universe that you've created for Urchin's Fall, whether it be the planet of Imanis. Correct me if I'm saying that wrong or whatnot. But
yeah,
like
Imanis,
the plate, the Urchin Moon alone, like just the different elements of the different people, the different races, classes, like all the different aspects of it. I could definitely see that influence, like being, based off of like anime, Final Fantasy, like those like over the top, incredible like atmospheres and like adventures or whatnot, like really being more or less the groundwork for this game.
I mean, the main kind of visual for Urchin's Fall is a moon with a giant cannon on it.
Yep.
That super magical elemental warriors fire themselves out of so they can destroy us all. Like, that is the most anime thing there is.
I was gonna say that's either the most anime or the most Final Fantasy, which, I mean, kind of the same vein, so.
Oh yeah, Final Fantasy, like, I don't know. I have always been like a JRPG kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
I like my leveling up. I like my progression. And hey, a couple magical MacGuffins are nice once in a while. Urchin's Fall doesn't have magical MacGuffins unless a GM wants to add some, at least for right now. But like, I don't know. It's just kind of a hybrid of my many, many, many interests over an extended period of several years. Because if you were to take a look at Urchin's Fall, or what would become it, back when it was Project 665 and I was in high school.
Okay.
Unrecognizable. Completely unrecognizable.
I mean, that's
It was basically like interdimensional like airport security or some nonsense. Like it was like actually unrecognizable.
I mean, yeah, to be fair, I mean, especially considering, like I said, this goes back years. Last time I checked, things really change when time is added to it. And I imagine, like, especially fleshing out a lot more ideas or whatnot. I mean, to be fair,
Oh, yeah.
years ago, you weren't a VTubing armadillo, yet here we are. I mean...
Absolutely.
So I have to ask, especially when it comes to the story itself, like, again, I'm gushing about just like the lore alone that you've kind of developed with this thing. Just thinking about, like I said, the giant kid on the moon, basically launching super elemental warriors or whatnot. They're basically there to destroy you more than anything else. Like,
Oh yeah.
I have to know, like, especially when it comes to Urchin's Fall, when did it go from just like that, basic premise all these years ago or whatnot, to you just finally putting your foot down and be like, I have to make this game a reality?
Yeah. The night before I announced it.
Okay.
Literally the night before I announced it. So this was kind of a project that I was just always kind of drawing and doodling, and I had all these mechanical sketches for this big bombastic JRPG and all of these stories. Because the main character of the story that I wanted to tell is the prince of the Shawses, pretty much. He is the figurehead of this movement to eliminate humanity, who has kind of moved in on this distant planet and are viewed as heretical just by existing.
Right.
Because, there's a deity living in this planet with a god complex going, I didn't make these guys! What the heck? Yo, we gotta kill them.
Yep.
So I had all these mechanical sketches about a unique leveling system and character kits, and don't you worry, I still have those. But it was kind of this is the thing that I want to make when I'm like 30, 35, have, a decade of industry experience and maybe actually like a little bit of seniority to accomplish something at a much grander scale.
Right.
And I, wanted to do something with it, but I was always like, not yet. I'm not experienced enough yet. And I think some relevant context is, for the entire duration of my VTuber journey, I've been on the job hunt pretty much. Like almost the entire duration. The video game job market is really competitive and sucks. So I was just kind of working on like portfolio pieces. Like, I want to be able to apply to writing roles as well. So I wanted to get some writing publications out there. So I started writing a book about the story of this Urchin moon and the Prince of Shawses, who is projected to be the straw that would finally finish off humanity. But he doesn't want to and is branded a traitor and is forced to live among humans and kind of learn to live alongside them, and for them to learn to accept him and lead up to the final days of this cosmic war that has been raging on for centuries now. And kind of a story of like love triumphing with a bittersweet ending that I wouldn't want to ruin.
Right.
But I was writing this book, and I know Faust
Yes.
TTV.
Yes.
Faust and I had been talking about, I wanted to write a book, and I just wanted to get some publications out there, and they had published books in the past. So I was going to them for advice, and they were like, I'll look at what you have when you have 3,000 words, or I think it was like 5,000 words. And I'm like on page 6 or something, and I'm like, it's like 2 a.m., and I just have this passing thought of, what the hell am I doing? What am I doing? Why am I writing a book? I'm a game designer. I went to school for game design. My life has been devoted to video games. And all the time on my channel, on Twitch, I go, I'm a game designer, I'm a game designer, I'm a game designer. And I never design games on stream. What the hell am I doing taking on a project of writing a book? That it felt so unrelated. So the next day, I just made an announcement like, all right, here's the project. I'm making a tabletop game. by myself, no help, and I'm gonna live stream it.
There you go.
And that's when I decided the time to make it is now. Of what the hell am I doing? Why am I sitting on my hands waiting for things to be perfect before making a game that I'm dreaming of? Let's just get it out there. I'd still love to, in the future, visit the world of Urchin's Fall in another genre.
Right.
But the reason that I chose to make it a TTRPG is not because I particularly play a lot of TTRPGs. In all candor, I really don't. But it has to do with that genre allows me to showcase a lot of my strengths, while being able to create something very systems heavy without kind of exiting scope.
Right. And I mean, especially the systems you've more or less like kind of developed when it comes to like the balancing or even the off balancing stuff or whatnot, the different aspects that you have with, how people, the abilities they're able to garner, the different types of magic they're able to accompany with or whatnot, the different races that you have, and like how some of their abilities like differ from others or whatnot. Like, I can tell that is a lot of your strong suits. That is a lot of that user manual that I had to look through.
Oh, yeah, and I have plenty of experience working on genres I don't normally play, so I don't know. I just kind of made sure to do my research, and, like, the game is still in what I would consider a very early state, even though there's, a public version available. I consider it to be in somewhat of a public alpha. There's no monster manual, there's no modules, there's plenty of room to refine and playtest and balance and all sorts of things that just take time and manpower.
I mean, to be fair, you did say you did this in like 10 weeks. So I will say, with the lore that you've invested with it, I know it's like years in the making, but like with what you were able to type up or whatnot, this seems like something that would take like 10 years to write up, let alone you doing it 10 weeks. It's just impressive on its own.
Yeah. Thank you. I think one big thing about the lore is a lot of the groundwork for it. Because you were asking about, like, the moon and the plate and all of that. And while your Discord was crashed, I actually kind of had a recollection of a lot of the best stuff for Urchin's Fall would be influenced by whatever the heck was happening in class. So a lot of the really good stuff would happen from science class of, astronomy or plate tectonics or geology or biology, which is where the Nimil came from. I know, and I can say this explicitly, is the first major villain, the first member of Prima Nulo I designed was designed in science class. The first Nimhill were designed in science class. I wouldn't be surprised if the Urchin Moon and the plate were similar.
You know what? Understandable, very valid. I mean, even then, like, you were touching on like some of the different races or whatnot that you've invested or whatnot, like the ones that you listed as well, the Ziggin or whatnot, the Yemens or whatnot. Personally, like, just looking through and trying to see what was available or whatnot with the races and classes right now. Rocco, I'm gonna say this right now: if I ever get a chance, when I get a chance to play this with a group of people, I have my character, at least the base of it or whatnot. I want to be an old worlder that is a post-merc with a lot of like raid magic, like investor whatnot. I want to be an old man with a gun that can shoot lightning. That is all I ask.
Oh, yes. Hell yeah.
And like, cause I'm looking through like what the old worlder was like, like the fact that they've been there basically since like the start of of this lore or whatnot, like the fact that they're basically essentially ageless, more or less. The way that you drew them, I absolutely love, like the character design that you had for them as well. And like, I gotta admit, like some of the abilities that you put or whatnot. Personally, I understood the reference. I love Full Metal. That's a good little like tidbit right there.
Did I accidentally do a Full Metal Alchemist reference?
It like if you look at how the character design and then you gave it the ability Full Metal, it looks like Full Metal Alchemist.
That's fair. They're very Alphonsi. I've always loved like Doulahans and living armors. I think the first time I ever played D&D would have been in high school, and I insisted that my friend let me do like a homebrewed Doulahan race. Ooh. I wanted to be like a 280-year-old spirit trapped in a suit of armor. And of course, there was like a challenge where we had to swim, and my character was not having a good time with that.
goodness. I mean, like, going back to, like, obviously the lore, like, you know, especially, like, the old world or whatnot, think of, like, all the different ages that you've invested or whatnot. The Eld Age, the Age of Fae, Age of Stars, Ashes Cloud or whatnot. Like, how much did, like, is there, like, a certain aspect of having such a deep lore that you knew was, like, essential when it came to this game? Like, how important was it for you to have such a lore like this for a TTRPG?
I think at first I actually really undervalued the importance of the lore. I wanted to do gameplay. You know, fuck the story, like, whatever, we'll get to that later. You know, that I considered that a lower priority. But kind of around late December, I started getting feedback from friends who had read what I had so far in its entirety. And Johnny Jellyjaw gave me very, very detailed feedback. He gave me like 15, 16, 17 notes, asking mostly questions about the world. And he's like, I want to learn more about the world. And people were saying, I want to make a character, but I don't know enough about the world. And I'm like, oh
Right.
yeah. And I kind of came to the realization that the story and the world and the fantasy of it is just as important, if not more so, than the combat, which is what I had been pouring most of my energy into. I was treating the act of writing the lore for this game as a neat little treat to do for myself, to reward myself. Like, oh, you've been a good and productive little guy today. Go write some lore as a treat. And I kind of realized, I was like, oh, no, people really care about this and want this.
Yeah.
And I think now that the base game is out, the next few updates are mostly going to focus on lore and addressing player feedback. And then, you know, time willing, I would like to pour some energy into making like a little monster manual. And then after that, maybe a module. But there's just so much I gotta do.
I mean, that's understandable, and I do want to say I do appreciate that you definitely invest a lot more in that lore, because I'll be honest, like, I've said this to you several times before, I am not a person that plays any tabletop RPGs or whatnot, but, like...
Oh, yeah, me neither.
Yeah. And, like, I honestly, like, looking at some of this stuff, like, I've always been a person that want to be invested in, like, tabletop RPGs. I've always wanted to do, like, D&D campaigns and stuff like that. So, like, I'm looking at, like, the technical aspects, and it's something that I know that I need to take some time to go through and really figure out how the stuff works before I invest myself in. But the lore...
And also something else worth mentioning is that, like, I can always improve the public-facing documentation to be more clear and concise. Tag was
Right.
very helpful with me editing. I have this very meandering writing style.
Understandable. But
the lore, as you were saying,
I was gonna say,
apologies for...
You're perfectly fine. I was gonna say, like, the lore, that's the main reason why I want to be invested in this game more than anything else. Just seeing all the different aspects, just how unique of a world you've more or less, like, really developed, and how diverse it could be, because I can already just see, just based on the different classes that you were executing, the different scenarios that could be played out and whatnot, there are so many different opportunities for, like, replayability more than anything else when it comes to Urchin's Fall.
Yeah. I can say mechanically, one of the main influences was like the job system from Final Fantasy V and
Okay.
Bravely Default and Octopath Traveler, where if you're not familiar with it, the job, or, you know, archetypical combat class that your character would equip of, you know, warrior, healer, paladin, mage, whatever, would be a thing that you can equip and unequip freely. And a lot of the fun gameplay came from mixing and matching it and finding powerful combinations of that. And I have always adored systems like that. So I wanted character creation to kind of have a similar level of modularity, of this feeling of mixing and matching a character's race and class and element. Because the way that I kind of differentiated the elements was I wanted each one to have their own play style. Kind of like Magic the Gathering or the Digimon card games, where,
Okay.
you know, blue does this, and green cards, you know, spawn lots more cards, or, you know, black cards are like, oh, you dispose this card and do a powerful attack or something like that. They all kind of have this this archetype, and there's a lot of flexibility within that archetype. But when someone plays these games, they say, I'm running a yellow-purple deck in Digimon. You're like, okay, I understand that play style. And I kind of wanted that to be similar, that you can very modularly say, I am playing a raid postmark, or I'm playing a dark fire conduit, or something like that, and people go, I see.
I mean, I was to say that I know that's especially useful, especially with the 8 elements or 8 elementals that you've introduced or whatnot. Having that little diagram that you have, very helpful, by the way. Seeing how that's set up and how they more or less like interlock with each other, whatnot, how they're supposed to interact or whatnot. That certainly is something that, especially now that you says your point when it comes to like the Magic the Gathering decks or whatnot, that definitely adds a nice, good little layer to how vastly different each playthrough can be with Urchin's Fall.
Something that I would like to do in the future is I would like to add spells that pull from multiple elements.
Okay.
And kind of would give players a little something extra, like maybe 1 to 3 spells for each 2-element combo that would kind of blend together the kits and allow players who are doing specific 2-element combos to find unique ways to play with that.
I mean, understandable.
It'll probably be disgustingly overpowered, and I'll probably have to rebalance it a million times. But I am more focused on giving players fun tools to use than I am concerned with the metagame. Especially because it is nigh impossible to gather analytics as a solo dev working on a tabletop game that I've published like this.
Especially with one that, again, like you said, you've been working on this for like 10 weeks. It's not like there was a lot of like play testing and, going through many different outlets, seeing what works and works. We're finding that like we're technically in the public play testing period right now. So anything anything that needs to be changed, you can change later on.
Yeah. Pretty, that's the fun thing about games is you can just change it.
Yep. Although I love how you were pointing out that like, these spells could be like super overpowered if I, incorporate like that. Literally one of the notes, like the only note that I saw that you have highlighted in there was for one of the class, the Shaitio or the
Shayosha, the Shasa, which are the elementals from the moon who literally just get 2 times spell casting. It's like, they're too important to the setting to not be playable.
Right.
But if I wanted to capture the Shiotic experience, I need to have a disclaimer there and go, this is not going to be fair and balanced.
Right, exactly.
Absolutely not.
So as long as you have disclaimers like that throughout, like just about every single aspect of it, like this could potentially be overpowered. Use that at your own risk, or just ruin everything. No, I'm joking.
Well, the less disclaimers, the better.
That is true.
I don't want something to be disgustingly overpowered, solely because players have a tendency to gravitate towards the path of least resistance. When they find a dominant strategy, they will often stick to it. And maybe they'll do that for the entirety of a game. This one strategy works, and then all of a sudden a situation comes along where that strategy doesn't work, and they get frustrated, and maybe they quit. And that's not something that I want players to experience. So I don't want anything to be like overpowered, but I'm just not worried about, oh no, dark is stronger than rot because of this formula that I ran. And I'll go, well, thank you for telling me, first of all. I'll see what changes I can make. But that is not the number one concern. It's more of an ongoing, permanent background thing.
Okay. That's fair. I was gonna say, I love how you talk about like, more or less how people do like metagaming or whatnot. Like they'll find like the overpowered strategy and then stick with it, then something change. I can't think of any like real examples with that with such popular games like Fortnite, Call of Duty, there's
never been a metagamer ever.
Mm-hmm.
Ever.
This is a wholly unique concept that like no one has ever even considered about. How dare you even bring it up in the first place, Rocco? Your game is perfect and there's no changes that need to be made.
Oh my god. There really are people who believe that stuff about certain games, and I'm like, stop.
And you know what? Those are the people that say that are the people that are abusing the meta more than anything else. They're using it to their advantage. That's why they're like, no, there's no meta to that. Excuse me while I have my double pump shotgun.
I mean, I don't think that metagaming is innately a bad thing. I think that it's important for people to analyze the strengths and weaknesses of something. I mean, like, let's use chess as an example. Chess evolved from like a game that had existed in a completely different friggin' region of the world hundreds of years prior and changed ever so gradually over the years. I don't remember the exact name and location where it's from, so I'm not going to get into all of that. But the reason that chess is so fine-tuned is because it had that amount of time and of metagamers who are saying, you know, oh, this is overpowered or playing it this way instead or something like that.
Right. Understandable. Now, going back to your game, it doesn't have that amount of time going into it just yet. Just give it out.
Not just yet, no.
Give it a good couple hundred years, and that'll be like the most refined game out there next to chess. So there you go. But thinking to like some of the stuff that you developed or whatnot, I have to know because like obviously you put a lot of love and care into the setting and to the characters or whatnot, but I can't help but think you have to have at least like a favorite aspect of it, whether it be a system that you implemented or maybe there's a specific character type that you just like relate to and you like cling on to, like this is my little baby. Like, what are some of your favorite aspects of Urchin's Fall?
Ooh. I think the locations,
Yes.
The giant eye poking out of the planet with eyelids that close like the aperture of a camera and will just cut you in half if you're standing on it. Or, you know, this moon that has been hollowed out and turned into a military base, firing cannons, or, you know, this city that is run by an ancient robot who's just like, no, do it like this to the governors, you know? And has this library. It's the fantasy of it.
Yeah.
It's always been the fantasy of it.
I mean, I can certainly see why. I mean, especially like you were saying, like even thinking back to the eye of East Imanis, like more than anything else, that was just one that like I saw that detail. I'm like, oh wow, that's okay. That.
Oh okay. Yeah, and in the future, I want to write much more about what is going on the surface of East Imanis and in its cities, because Shiotic civilization is pretty messed up.
Yeah, I can fully believe that. But I mean, even thinking back to, you know, the time that you've invested into creating this game or whatnot, and the once again, the lore that you've invested so much into or whatnot, like, I have to know, like, stepping back, thinking of the final product that's out there right now, and obviously the changes you can be made to it, like, again, does it amaze you more or less that you're able to produce something as quality as this?
No, I don't think I'm amazed. I think I'm just really proud of myself for creating a plan and sticking to it.
There you go.
One of my biggest weaknesses as a designer has been taking on projects that are way out of scope for myself, or putting too much effort into details that ultimately never would have mattered, that end up kind of kneecapping when the game would have released. So the goal for Urchin's Fall was always like early January release, and the initial release was what, January 13th? Yeah. So like, if anything, I'm amazed that things went according to plan.
Yeah, you know what?
You know, I'm not amazed that, wow, look what I made, because I know what I'm capable of.
Right.
I mean, for God's sake, I've had this thing bouncing around in my head.
True.
I mean, I had lots of things I had to make up on the fly about the lore and about making this world work within a tabletop game. Like, when I went in and made the announcement, hey, I'm making a tabletop game, that's all I had. Was I'm going to make a tabletop game, and I have a setting in my head. So I'm amazed that it came out remotely recognizable and in a remotely reasonable amount of time.
I still remember that.
Everything, yeah.
I still remember whenever you just randomly just made the announcement. I'm like, oh, fuck yeah, that's awesome. I can't wait to see it. And then like whenever you just dropped it like more or less out of nowhere, because I didn't realize that you were just had that like game plan to release in like essentially 10 weeks or whatnot. So when I saw it was released, like, oh shit, fuck, why didn't anyone tell me sooner?
Yeah. Well, I mean, when did you expect it to release? Like much later in 2023?
Like yeah, something like that. Like I didn't know how much more you had to invest into it, and like especially with again, I'm someone that's on the outside when it comes to just game development, whether it be video games or like tabletop games or whatnot.
Yeah.
Like, so I didn't know exactly how much you were going to invest into it and how much you needed to invest into it. I always thought it would take a little bit longer, but like the 10 weeks that you're able to accomplish and put out once again such a quality project, like I'm proud for you, Rocco, for what you're able to do.
Thank you. I can kind of tell you why I wanted to get it out so fast is within game development, we have this term of the MVP or minimum viable product of what are the absolute minimum things that your game needs to have in order for you to hand it to a player, walk away, and let them enjoy it.
Okay.
And we can also refer to that as a vertical slice of if our game was a cake, it is just a vertical little slice of that cake. World 1-1 in Mario, and that's it, would be a vertical slice. And that is what I wanted to release. I wanted mechanics. I wanted enough lore for people to get started. I wanted some races, some classes, some spells. Bada bing, bada boom, minimum viable product. And the refinement and beautification and reevaluation of this world is a thing that will probably gradually happen. And eventually, the game will get like a super duper crazy release much later, but
I mean,
I wanted to get the MVP out there and available to the public because playtesting a game that requires multiple people and can take hours to run sessions is not feasible. and also I wanted a portfolio piece out there so I could use it in my job hunt.
Right.
And say, like, look what I made.
Yep.
I'm still out here making stuff. Hire me.
I mean, certainly, like, what I've been gushing about this entire podcast, look at what you have made. Like I said, you've made a true quality tabletop RPG that, even if it's only, like, in the bare, like, like somewhat alpha stage or whatnot when it comes to like playtesting or whatnot, I still think like the amount of time and effort that you put into it is really showcased with just about every single aspect of it. So I have to know, like, considering all that you put into it and all that you hopefully have planned for it, what do you hope to see with Urchin's Fall? What do you hope to accomplish with it?
God, I would like a job.
That's a good start.
Yeah, that's a good start. But beyond that, I mean, I would love to try and build an Urchin's Fall community, not just like a Rocco community, because the Rocco community is its own thing, and I use like me and my VTubing platform to try and get eyes on the game that I have made, because I would be an idiot not to.
Right.
But what I would love to see is I just want to see like people playing it and having a good time and experiencing the world and telling stories within it and making characters and just any of that. Like to just see my game bring people joy and enjoyment. That's all I can ask for.
That's a good thing to hope for. I mean, I know I said before, if I was to play it, like I have the class in mind that I want to do or whatnot. So I'm calling it. So I'm calling out former guests of the podcast. If you're listening to this, look, I want to do this. I want to have like a campaign like this, guys. For some of us, we're in that Discord server together. Let's get a group together. Let's get this thing going. Let's do something. Let's have some fun with this. Because, like, again, I'm not a person that plays tabletop RPGs, but I really want to, like, sink my teeth really into this. This looks like just fun on all different fronts.
Oh, yeah. That was one of the main things that was kind of baked into the mechanics also, was this game is almost kind of like the anti-D&D of there's, like, a couple things that I've experienced while playing D&D as someone with like crazy ADHD who can't sit still that I dislike, of the waiting my turn for like a million years while my party members are like deciding on their attacks, is like why group casting is a thing and why players can pool their resources together and shuffle their turn order, is because I want this to be a cooperative experience, not just a fantastical one.
Right. I mean, even then, like, like thinking to like how some of the D&D sessions or whatnot, like knowing how off the rails those can go and knowing what you're doing differently with that, oh man, that's just gonna be pure chaos that I really want to see when it comes to Urchin's Fall.
Oh yeah, I cannot wait to run campaigns for people on stream. I think that's gonna be so fun.
I mean,
You want in on it?
I want in on. Did you not hear me call out the guest of the podcast?
Know.
Last time I checked, you're a guest of the podcast now. So
yeah, let's make it happen.
Let's make it happen. But thinking back to not just with Urchin's Fall, but like just your journey as a whole, like thinking everything that you've been able to accomplish, whether it be VTubing, video games, Urchin's Fall, or whatnot, like. I'm not going to say amazed once again, but like thinking back to just your art journey as a whole, like how accomplished do you feel with what you've been able to do so far?
I am never satisfied with what I've accomplished. I'm always hungry for more. Whenever I release a game and it gets feedback, in my head I'm thinking about all the things that didn't make the cut or that I wish I had added or, stuff like that. I am never satisfied, and I am always hungry. It is both a blessing and a curse.
Fair.
But I am not content to simply sit on my hands.
Okay.
So, I'm proud of what I've done, but I am not satisfied.
Understandable. Well, maybe with this next question, maybe I can give you a little bit more satisfaction, if I may.
Okay.
And give you more or less the dream scenario.
Okay.
Let's say I am Big Shot Mr. Moneybags. That Muppet that was sitting on the couch earlier and whatnot. Yeah, that was
absolutely
that was Mr. Moneybags. I come to you like, look.
Hold on. Let me zoom out.
Audio listeners love you to death.
Yeah, we got Mr. Moneybags on the couch.
Ah, wonderful! Just
bags of money.
Well, yes, absolutely. In fact, let me just as you know, I am Big Shot Mr. Moneybags. I'm here to let you know that Rocco, I know you can do some absolutely incredible stuff. We've seen what you've been able to accomplish so far, and while I feel like you could do more. And I'm sure you could probably agree with that. You feel like you could probably do more as well.
Oh yeah.
You just need a little bit more of a push, a platform, more or less, if I may.
Mm-hmm.
We have access to anyone and everyone in whatever industry possible, and more money than should be possible. We could probably be helping so many people, especially in the game development, get benefits and stuff like that, especially when they're unemployed right now.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll focus on that later. Right now, we are focusing on you and you alone. So, Rocco, if given this opportunity, what would be the dream Rocco Farend project?
Urchin's Fall JRPG.
Okay.
The whole story. The tale of this war and of the people who work to end it, and of, the secrets of the plate and of the old worlders whose business is yet unfinished, how they wish to shepherd humanity to safety. That there are billions of lives that they left behind to protect billions more, and that they can't rest until they know we're safe. And of that story. That is the dream. And, today we're just taking steps to make that a reality.
Well, there
rather
you go.
than sitting on my hands and waiting a couple decades until, air quotes, the time is right. But that is totally the dream game.
Good. It should be the dream game, especially seeing how much we're able to invest in the 10 weeks for the tabletop RPG version of this game. I have to also ask, just like obviously as a game developer, you've taken a lot of inspiration from, I imagine, other game studios for something like this. Is there like a game studio that you would love to collaborate with in order to make this game a reality?
Oh God. Oh no, I don't know. Oh Lord. I don't know, because in this dream project, it's me at the helm.
Right. No, it's you at the helm, but I mean, obviously, only one person can do so much, especially when it comes to a full-fledged game like that.
I care more about the people I'm working with than the studio.
Okay.
There's lots of studios who have games that I grew up playing, like Nintendo or Square Enix or Atlas or Capcom or whatever, right? And I would love to work at a studio that I grew up playing those games. That's the dream. But as long as I'm with people that I can trust with this vision, I'm happy.
Right. Okay. Fair. Understandable. I didn't know if it was like one of those, well, I know it worked for Final Fantasy's, 14 Online. Let me just get those guys and we can really refine this thing together.
What is the dream studio? I don't know. Unionized?
That, you know what? Valid point. Very valid point.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Man, if only that was so relevant these days, huh? Anyways,
Yeah, God, that would be something, huh?
that would be just that's a pipe dream more than anything else. Goodness. But sadly, we gotta get down from the dream scenario. We gotta get back to reality, which is ironic.
Yup.
So in fact, we were just talking about unionization and anyways, but we have to get back to reality, and I'll have to ask the ever so generic question.
Yeah.
Where do you hope to see yourself, say, 5 to 10 years from now?
I'd like to be living somewhere far away from where I am right now.
Understandable.
I've kind of lived in the same area for my whole life. Pretty much, I've been along the North American East Coast almost exclusively, just kind of going up and down between home and the schools that I've gone to. I want to travel. I want to broaden my horizons. I want to live somewhere far away and immerse myself in different cultures. And I would certainly love to be continuing to live stream and work on games while doing it. Hopefully still as Rocco.
No.
I know that there's all sorts of like contracts that you might have to sign when you get hired, where it's like, oh, you can't, work on Urchin's Fall because that's considered a conflicting project or some nonsense like that. Like at one of my previous jobs, I would not be able to work on personal projects.
Okay.
Just due to the contract. I mean, I was paid well.
Right.
Otherwise I wouldn't have signed the contract.
Yeah.
But 5 years from now, that's the goal. 5 years from now, I'd be 29.
Jesus.
Disgusting. I don't.
I was gonna say, Rocco,
I said, I don't want to grow up.
I was gonna say, don't remind me. I'm gonna be 27 this year. Okay, goodness.
I'm getting real sick of this aging bullshit.
I know, right? Who decided that they can look at adults and be like, you have to get old? Like, can we not just like enjoy what we get?
I'm already old. Stop making me older.
There's only so old you can make me.
Yeah. That's the plan, is I'm just going to keep working on video games until I can't.
Okay.
Until I have to retire for my own health, and it's no longer feasible, physically or mentally.
Fair enough. Although I'm not gonna lie. Whenever you said hopefully as Rocco, I'm just thinking to myself, oh no, is Rocco graduation coming at some point?
Oh no, I always get into those self-destructive thoughts that everyone has. Is sometimes when I'm feeling frustrated, I'm like, I should just graduate. I should just tear it all down. I gotta quit. I gotta.
Yep.
Yeah, just don't trust how you feel after 9 p.m. is the moral of the story.
I'll say, Rocco, I cannot tell you the amount of times I've thought, if I just stop doing the podcast, no one's going to care. But no, I know people care.
Yeah.
I know people care. It's like you said, it's that midnight thinking, more or less. That's the most dangerous thoughts to come out at any time. But as we start to wind down the interview, Rocco, I just have one last question I want to ask. Obviously, you've been deeply entrenched in art and video games for as long as you can remember, ever since you were little, more or less. Mm-hmm. How important is art, not just for you, but for the world as a whole?
I think it's critical. I think it's absolutely a critical part of the human experience. That, what separated humanity from, a lot of the rest of the world, at least, within our own minds, we're still very much part of the ecosystem, is the building of civilization and of uplifting those who can't uplift themselves and of creating a fair and equitable world. And art allows us to tell these stories of what ifs and of people who do good and of who do evil, and allow us to explore these fantastical concepts that allow us to apply them to our daily lives. I believe that storytelling and art and playing and gaming and having fun, because all of this falls under art, is a critical part of the human experience. And you might actually kind of see that in Urchin's Fall in, I try not to explicitly state so in the text, but the age of Eld is right here, right now. Eld is Earth. The Old Worlders are Earthlings. They are from Earth. And the treasures that your characters are finding when they dig through these ruins are the relics of an old age, the stories of a past that tell them of what it once was. That you can fight your way through an insanely difficult dungeon, and what you find is a hard drive with a copy of Kirby's Adventure on it. That, that has been lost for thousands of years. There's cultural significance there of the stories of people and of their lives. I think it's critical to who we are, and it is a thing that I've baked into the setting and into, humanity, humans with a Y, of what they value, of it's our story.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is wonderfully worded, if I do say so myself, Rocco.
Thank you.
That's all the questions I have for you today. I've already showered you with a whole bunch of praise, Rocco, but I'm going to shower you with a little bit more because it's my podcast. I do what I want.
Yeah. Thank you.
Look, Rocco, ever since I was first introduced to you, thanks to Sam, shout out Grandpa. Yeah, ever since I was
shout out Grandpa, VTRPG Grandpa. He was the guy who pretty much helped me find the wider VTuber community. Because pretty much until I met him, I was in my own tiny little bubble and didn't really get to know it like anyone else.
Honestly, literally the same thing, as well as that. Thanks to my interview with Grandpa, it really introduced me to VTubers and what were out there and whatnot. And you being one of the people that I instantly saw, I instantly gravitated towards, just with your the way you. The confidence that you more or less exude whenever you're streaming or whatnot, the way you portray yourself, the fun that you like to have with every single stream, it was very easy to cling on to that, and I appreciated that. Really getting to invest myself into your community or whatnot, meeting some of the incredible people that you and I both consider very deep friends at this point, close friends at this point. I cannot thank you enough for allowing me to be a part of that in the first place. Seeing how far you've been able to come along, seeing how much you've invested yourself in this stuff, and seeing how much work and effort you put into everything, whether it be your streaming, whether it be, trying to get a job with video games, or whether it be Urchin's Fall. It's admirable. It's amazing. And I appreciate both what you've done and the stories you've been able to tell today about you really being invested in this stuff. I don't know if you realize this, Rocco, but especially within the VTuber community, you are one of the most influential people. I've had several people tell me before that you were one of the reasons why they really got invested into VTubing, or you've been one of the people to really help them along when it comes to VTubing. You're a really major part of this community, and we are all honored and blessed to even know you, let alone be considered your friend in the first place. So, long and the short of it, Rocco, thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for being so welcome and open, and thank you for all the hard work you've put in this stuff. You deserve everything, because I think you've done incredible stuff, and I know you got a lot more to come. So keep doing the incredible work, man.
Oh my god. Thank you. I want to get a little emotional about that. I'm just gonna say thank you for all of those kind words and more. I am so grateful to have you as a friend. There are billions of stories being told on this planet, and I think we are both incredibly fortunate that our stories are intertwined.
I cannot agree with that more, man. I didn't expect to go so emotional myself, but I'm about to cry.
I feel that shit welling up.
Quick, insert a piss joke or something. Break the tension or something.
Oh, God. Oh, my goodness. There's a guy, and, the piss button doesn't work.
Ah, Jesus. All right. Well, maybe I'll
I need to update that. I don't know. I'll put on some... we got the backup dancers.
There you go, backup dancers. There you go.
Dancing lobsters or something.
Dancing dillos. Let's go.
Oh yeah.
So if people want to see just the person and the personality and the random dancing dillos that I'm ever so gushing about, go ahead and plug yourself for the people at home.
Absolutely. Y'all can follow me at twitch.tv/Rocco Farend. That's ROCCO FAREND. Far End. Mm-hmm. It's a parody of Rocky Friend. It's actually where my name comes from.
I was just about to ask that.
You can also find Urchin's Fall on itch.io, available for free. For free. That's right. Art is for everyone, baby. Mm-hmm. And I'm just happy to make my game smile. But if it makes you smile a whole lot, maybe consider tossing me a tip or two. You never know.
Mm-hmm.
Could help a little guy out.
Absolutely.
What else do I have to plug? That's it. I stream and make video games.
I would say there's also, Twitter, YouTube, what any of the links that you may
Oh
miss.
yeah, I have the YouTube VOD archives and the highlights and the TikToks and the Tumblr and the Twitter.
Yeah.
But like, I see those as advertising platforms rather than a creative pursuit.
Right, absolutely.
And I think that mentality might hold me back from properly growing on those platforms as much as I could potentially. But the medium that I have devoted my life towards cannot be reduced to 280 characters.
Yep. There you go. That's a good way to word it. If nothing else, yeah, I mean, obviously those main links that Rocco said, definitely go to those first, but I'll be sure to have the other links in the description. I got you covered for that one, so if people are curious.
Thank you so much for having me on.
No problem. Do you have any final words before we sign off?
Thank you, Post/Nathan. I know, I'm so used to calling you Post.
No,
we always call you Post in the VTuber space because everyone's so used to using not their real names.
Look, if I had any issues with people calling me Post, I would have stopped that like right at the beginning when Sam was the first one calling me Post. The only reason why everyone calls me Post is because Sam started calling me that because he couldn't remember my name. Love you, Sam. Love you, Sam. There's nothing against you. I appreciate it, and I have taken it wholeheartedly, and like I wear the name Post with pride. Okay.
Hell yeah, it's a good name.
It's good. It's simple. Poignant to the point. People remember it. But
as for the rest of my final words, an additional thank you, not just to you, but to all of the lovely people who have watched this far. I hope you had a wonderful time listening to us chitter and chatter.
There you go.
And I hope you all have a fantastic morning, noon, or night.
Absolutely.
Take care.
And with that, all I have left to say is for the people at home, hasta luego, mi amigos.
Peace out. Oh yeah, wait, that's how I end everything is keep your eyes to the ground and we'll meet again. Peace out.
Tell me what's wrong, tell me it's parts in motion. Sing me a song, tell me your eyes can all open. Show me it all, pick me up in the car you drove when you used to call. Show me it all.
Thank you so much for sticking around to the end. If this is your first time listening, I sincerely do appreciate you sticking up to this point. Though I do imagine, especially with this episode, I probably got a lot of return listeners for this one, which I've said it a million times before and I will say it again. Thank you guys for the continued love and support for the podcast. I know an episode like this with Rocco was one I have been wanting to do for a while. Knowing just all that Rocco does and the importance that they have in the community, I knew I needed to have them on. So, Rocco, if you're listening up to this point, no, in all seriousness, thank you. Thank you for welcoming me into your community and letting me be a part of it and get to meet some incredible people in there. Meeting people like Rocco is one of the biggest benefits that I've had since I've gone on this podcast journey. Like, I don't know if you guys realize this, but it was hard for me really to make friends throughout certain points in my life. I don't know what it was. I mean, people have their ways of stuff, but really getting to go all in with the communities that I get to more or less meet through the guests that I've had on the podcast or whatnot, it's truly a blessing to say that I am friends with the people that I consider friends. If it wasn't for introducing myself to Sam, literally most of my friend group would not be possible. Sam, if you're listening to this point, thank you. Thank you for letting me be part of your community, and thank you for introducing me to people that would eventually be some of the ones I would consider my best friends, straight up. You know, you got, Rocco, Tag, Sasha, Spiral, Patch, Moose. That's just in the VTuber community alone. Having a lot of those people, really becoming friends with them, getting to know them, share some fun moments with them. It's an honor and a blessing. Something I don't take for granted, The community I've been able to be a part of ever since I've gone on this podcast venture. The community I've kind of culminated, the loose connections with people or whatnot. It's really awesome. That's the long and the short of it. It is really awesome knowing the people that I get to know. And I don't know what to say. Then just thank you. Thank you guys for making me feel welcome. Thank you for letting this little independent nobody from, nowhere, Georgia. Thank you for letting him into your guys' lives and letting them get to have some fun. Because I've truly had fun with you guys, especially with this podcast. And I mean, hey, if nothing else, there's always more fun to come. If nothing else, for all the VTuber people out there, I just want to say, I'm just going to say this. If you have the opportunity and are wanting to have me on your streams or whatnot, please ask. I want to be on more streams. I want to be on more live streams and have fun with that. I recently did one with Sasha, to where we did Return to Castle Wolfenstein. That was fun. That was a fun stream. Simple, laid back, silly moments, good conversation. Like, I enjoy streams like that. Seeing people, having that fun little conversation. It's just like a longer, drawn out podcast, and that's the shit I enjoy. Oh, and also, hey, shout out to Sam, Elder's grandpa. By the time this episode comes out, their birthday is this weekend. You go wish him a happy birthday, and then you go to his streams throughout the weekend, show love and support, and celebrate a fun birthday with him. Because he deserves it. More than anything else. Show love and support for the people in this community. Show love and support for people in any art community whatsoever. Because they're all doing incredible stuff. Show that love today.